We are joined by attorney Jeff O'Brien with our weekly 3 and Out. 3 stories, usually sports stories. It will be today, and we just touch on them. And Jeff, let's kick it off with the big Timberwolves OKC Thunder series. Starts tomorrow night, and I was talking to Dave Bialke about it. I mean, this team could win the NBA Finals because they have the depth and the talent is there when it shows up. And I got to be honest, 2 5-1 series. Not quite sweeps, but they've shown that they have turned it to another level in the postseason.
Yeah, I think I just saw the odds that Oklahoma comes out as a heavy favorite, and they should. They were the first seed. They had the best record.
By far, yep.
But I do think, just given how the playoffs have played out here, you've had the Wolves, like you said, they've dispatched their 2 opponents in 5 games. They've had a few days of rest here. Oklahoma's coming off a very tough series with Denver, where they had to come back in it and then ultimately won in Game 7. So for the Timberwolves, if you had to face Oklahoma, I don't think you could have faced them. You could have asked for any better circumstances.
Here's where I would divert from that because again, as I mentioned earlier, you had Golden State coming off of 7-game series, and they beat them without Steph Curry. He played only 13 minutes, then he got hurt, had 13 points, and the team still won. You know where I think it's a problem for the Wolves? You say, they've been resting, they've been sitting. Yes, but then they've been thinking too. I mean, they're thinking about all this stuff and what's ahead of them, and it goes back to what I've been saying for quite a while about all these Minnesota teams. The biggest step that a team has to make to be a championship team is to show it can handle success and not fold under the pressure of it. Now, if they win this series, I honestly, if they get to win the Western Conference, I'm willing to see that they can handle success and not say they have to prove it by winning the NBA Finals. Because getting to the Finals, to me, shows you can handle success. And once you get there, yeah, it's another level. But I would be very impressed by them. Maybe not massively, but very impressed.
I take it. The reason I say the circumstances is, it's you're going to have to bring your A game against Oklahoma. So why not have a few days rest and have them jump right back into it? I do think that if the Wolves do play their best basketball, they have a shot here. My gut is. And I think the X factor here is the fact that the Wolves have been here before. The Wolves were in the finals last year. So
yeah, they were.
They've learned from that, right?
Well, a little bit different team, but yeah.
This is going to be kind of hedging my bets, but I think it's either going to be the Wolves in 7 or the Thunder in 4 or 5. And I think the Game 1 is going to be the big determiner. If the Wolves can come out and steal one from them and knock them back on their heels, then I think we could have a series. If the Thunder come right out and roll over them, I think we could be in for a quick series and out.
The thing about the Thunder is they're young, so it's not. I don't think the 7-game series is going to beat them down and where they're weary. And it's a young team that has a lot to prove itself. Proved a lot in the regular season. I mean, it's the youngest team ever to win 60 games in NBA history. I mean, it's young and talented. When you take a look around at that roster, and let me ask you a question because you would have a pretty good idea of why, because you do follow this. Why is it that who has been putting it on Anthony Edwards that he's the next face of the NBA? To me, there's a lot of potential faces of the NBA, including at least one of them on the Thunder.
Yeah,
so I don't understand. But what is it about about him that has made him come up? And that's what they talk about, that he is the new face of the NBA. Tell me why? Why him?
Well, I think he's talented, right?
No question.
A lot of guys are talented. He definitely, when he does interviews and some of his behavior on the court, he's got that air about him, right? And I think that's what there's that it factor with him. I think that's what they're kind of focusing on, beyond, athletic skill. There's a charisma to him.
But isn't there, okay, let's just go to the Thunder. Isn't there a similar type, or is there charisma to this SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? I mean, he's incredible as well.
He is. I don't disagree. I'm just trying to. And
I mean, the guy. Okay, he averaged 32.7 points a game, and he's got 3 straight years averaging over 30 points a game. To me, that's the face of the. And I'm not. I mean, I've made it clear I'm not a huge fan of Anthony Edwards as a person. As a basketball player, he's incredible. I mean, I've used this example. I was not fond of Chris Carter as a person, but there is no doubt if there's a third down play, I want him catching the ball. Yeah. He was a fabulous talent. You know, I got along and liked, even though he could be a pain in the butt, I liked Randy Moss a lot more than I like Chris. And it's universal. I mean, I've had players on that team say Chris Carter they didn't say jerk, but that he was the biggest blankety blank that they ever played with. Because he was all about Chris, and fans wouldn't know that because they didn't see him inside the locker room and his behavior. He was about Chris. But I digress. Anyway, but I mean, was it the Olympics that did it when in some of these prelim games, or that he became that suddenly the face of the NBA?
Yeah, that could very well be, Bob. We'll see where it goes. The NBA is notorious for that reputation of, with the officiating can kind of sway towards who they want, to promote. So maybe for once the Wolves might get the benefit of that. I don't know.
It could be. All right, item 2.
Item 2, still in basketball, got WNBA. They opened their season. There's already been some good stuff there. But the Lynx opened in Dallas against Minnesota native Paige Bueckers. And I said to you when we were doing our show prep, my headline was Lynx beat Dallas and Paige Bueckers days after she renounced her Minnesota citizenship.
Well, she didn't do that.
Because she's down at a Dallas Stars playoff game and is shown on video with a Dallas
What
Stars.
Is she going to do? Wear a Wild jersey there? Come on.
At least, her PR people should know better the history. Put a North Stars jersey on.
No, come on. No, it's fine. She's trying to fit in. That's not a big deal.
I know. I'm just teasing. Teasing. But they did. But the Lynx did open with a win against Paige and the Wings, so that was good. WNBA is already off to a spicy start. We saw Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese getting into it.
Okay, you know what? I thought that was a foul. It was. But it wasn't anything more than that. It wasn't like she grabbed her. And I think that Angel Reese, she might have thrown herself to the floor.
She absolutely flopped. But and Caitlin Clark was interviewed afterward, and she said she was heading to the basket. She was going to be 2 points. You take the foul, right? That's what you do.
She did what you're supposed to do. It's being built up, and there was another play. I don't remember who the heck it was. That was really flagrant. In another game. So these women are they're not afraid to to bang around.
The WNBA is at an all-time high with talent, but with the Caitlin, if they want to try to elevate this league to another level, it's got to be on the backs of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese in that rivalry. And there's no love lost between the two of those. The women. There's no question about that.
Well, and Bueckers has to step into the fray too and not get along with Angel Reese or Caitlin Clark.
It's just not going to be the same. I mean, she's a phenomenally talented player, right?
Yeah.
And let's give her credit. A few months ago, she's playing for the national championship, and now she's playing again. So that's impressive. But you're never going to repeat. I mean, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese had the rivalry in college with the games between Iowa and LA.
Right.
The play.
All right, item 3.
Item 3. So it was last week. It was announced that Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and a number of other deceased former Major League Baseball players have been reinstated to Major League Baseball and now will be eligible to be considered for the Baseball Hall of Fame. I did think, there's been a lot of talk recently about Pete Rose. The Shoeless Joe thing kind of came out of left field, and some were suggesting, we get a Pope who's a White Sox fan, and suddenly Shoeless Joe's on the ballot.
Well, maybe that had something to do with it. But there have been over the decades there have been Shoeless Joe Jackson fan clubs to try to get him in the Hall of Fame and get him vindicated.
Because even though he was listed as one of the members of the Black Sox scandal, if you look at his numbers from that World Series, if that wasn't trying, I don't know what is. So, I'm in favor of, I guess they're going to be considered by the Veterans Committee the next time
Yeah,
they
it
meet,
would
I think
be.
in
Yep.
2027.
Yep.
I'm in favor of, I've said for a long time, I thought Pete Rose should have been reinstated. I'm in favor of him being in the Hall of Fame. He's still the all-time hits leader. I think Shoeless Joe should be given strong consideration and should be in there. And you and I have talked about this before on the show, Bob. I think that the guys like Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire, all of those guys, I think, even though yes, you have the steroids, but that was the era, right? That was what they played
the
in.
one who I think has taken the biggest shot in this is McGuire, because when he was taking them, they were legal. There was no ban on them, and he's paying a retroactive price for it. Now, the other ones were taking it after they were, they were no longer legal.
Well, and I've always said but my point with Bonds and Clemens is I think there's some pretty hard evidence as to when they started taking them. They already had Hall of Fame numbers when they started doing that. They did it to try to extend their careers, right? But I think that all of those guys, my view in the Hall of Fame, whether it be the Football Hall of Fame, Baseball Hall of Fame, whatever Hall of Fame, is if you can't tell the story of the game without those players, then they should be in there. And I think that for all of those guys, Rose, Jackson, McGuire, Bonds, Clemens, you can't tell the story of baseball without them. And I think they should be included.
Well, and also, if they put today's standards on the standards of players like Ty Cobb, well, Ty Cobb allegedly murdered a guy, so why did he get in?
Right.
That's
right. Well,
that's the problem.
If we're gonna have those issues, are we going to start removing people when something bad comes out about them later? That was the big talk
with OJ
on the football side with OJ all those years, right?
Yeah. When you're in, you're in. You don't get thrown out for no matter what, and you should get in. And as I've said, I have a vote in the Baseball Hall of Fame, and I did one year, the first year, I did not vote for the steroid guys, and I cannot go back and say why. But then I thought about it and said, hey, they're on the ballot. I'm going to look at their numbers in their career, because it doesn't automatically make you a hit machine, or I think the pitchers have a bigger advantage than the hitters because they get more velocity potentially. But you know what? I didn't. I look at the numbers overall. And that's how I base it. So I've been voting for guys like new Timberwolves owner, A-Rod.
Yeah.
So all right, Jeff is always greatly appreciated. Attorney Jeff O'Brien will take a quick break, and the BS show will be right back.